He let the kids ruin my big night, then blamed me for it. The air backstage buzzed with nervous excitement. Somewhere beyond the thick curtains, a woman with a headset whispered rapid-fire instructions into a walkie-talkie, while a young man adjusted the lights with a long pole, his face half glowing in the artificial beams. TEDx Seattle was running smoothly, until I saw them. I was 2 minutes from going on stage. 2 minutes away from the moment I'd worked toward for nearly a year. My name, Dr. Katherine Hales, trauma linguist, was already on the screen. My microphone was clipped to my collar. My palms were slick, not with fear but with adrenaline. This was it. My talk, How Words Save Lives, was going to be filmed, posted online, maybe even picked up by someone at NPR. And then I saw the unmistakable heads of my children bobbing through the red velvet auditorium seats. No. I had made it very clear to Dan, tonight was not for the kids. Ellie was 5, Liam 7. Sweet, yes, but absolute chaos at live events. I had explained it 3 times, written it in the shared calendar, texted it the night before, and yet, there they were, seated near the 4th row, right next to Dan, who gave me a little wave as if he were bringing me flowers, not a disaster. The host's voice boomed, "Please welcome, Dr. Katherine Hales." Applause. Loud, expectant. I pasted on a smile and stepped into the spotlight. The lights were blinding. I found the red dot on the floor, my anchor. My mouth opened, muscle memory kicking in. When I was 8 years old, I was afraid of thunderstorms, I began, the familiar rhythm starting to build. Not because of the noise, but because I didn't know the words to explain the fear. I could feel the audience leaning in. Then, "Mommy," Ellie's voice rang out like a fire alarm, high and clear. "I have to pee." There was laughter. Polite at first. Then ripple effect chuckles, as people turned to see the source. I tried to continue. Language is how we shape our inner storms. But Liam was standing up now. He shouted, "That's my mom, she's on TV." More laughter. Phones came out. I saw someone filming. My mind went white. The script vanished. I heard the blood in my ears. I blinked, opened my mouth. Nothing. A complete blank. The silence stretched. The host stepped out gently, hand on my back. "Let's give her a moment," he said with an awkward smile. "Kids, huh?" Polite applause. I walked off, my legs numb. The tech guy unclipped my mic without making eye contact. My chest felt tight, my eyes stinging. Dan was waiting in the hallway, still holding Ellie's hand. "You okay?" he asked, like I'd just stubbed my toe, not had a professional meltdown. I stared at him. "You brought them. After I told you. You told me you preferred they not come. You didn't say it was banned." "Dan, I literally wrote." He held up a hand. "There are kids, Katherine. You talk about saving lives with words. Maybe start by using some with your own family." And then, with maddening calm, he added, "Besides, I thought this was about concentration. Didn't you say trauma survivors have to learn to focus even under pressure? Well, this was your chance to prove it." Something in me broke. Not loudly, not with screaming, but with a silence sharp enough to cut glass. I nodded. Just once. Then turned and walked past him, past the event staff, down the hallway with my heels echoing on the concrete floor. 2 months before TEDx Seattle, I opened my inbox and screamed. A full, hands in the air, twirling in the kitchen kind of scream. Ellie came running in wearing a tutu over her pajamas, thinking we'd won the lottery. "Did we get a puppy?" she asked hopefully. "No, baby," I said, hugging her tight. "Mommy's going to be on stage, like a real stage." Dan walked in with Liam balanced on his hip. "What's the celebration?" "I got the TEDx spot," I said, trying to keep my voice even, but I couldn't stop smiling. "Seattle. November 4th. I'm officially on the lineup." He gave me a smile, the kind that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Wow, that's fast. I mean, I've been applying for over a year." No, it's great," he said, kissing my forehead. "Just don't forget how to make waffles when you're famous." I laughed, because it was supposed to be a joke, but something about the way he said it left a strange taste in my mouth. The kind of taste that makes you pause, but not long enough to process anything. The next morning, I was up at 5:12 a.m., coffee in one hand, laptop in the other, trying to draft a new outline before the kids woke up. TEDx gave us 15 minutes. That's it. 15 minutes to distill your life's work into something powerful, human, unforgettable. So I hired a coach. Her name was Melissa. She'd worked with speakers who'd gone viral. She was expensive, blunt, and brilliant. "You're trying to be polite," she said during our first Zoom session. "Forget that. Speak from the scar, not the wound." So I dug deeper. Told stories I hadn't even told Dan, about the young veteran who couldn't say the word bomb, and the 10-year-old girl who said ouch instead of help because she thought asking for help was a weakness. Melissa pushed me hard. I worked in between school pickups, therapy clients, grocery runs, and dinner prep. I practiced my cadence while folding laundry, rehearsed in the car, whispered transitions to myself in the shower, and Dan changed, not in a dramatic made-for-TV way. It was quieter than that, slower. He started making jokes. "Just don't start charging us to talk at the dinner table. Are we calling you Dr. Stage Lights now? I hope your big talk includes how to unclog the dishwasher." Each line wrapped in a chuckle, like a sugar-coated dart. At first, I laughed along. But when he forgot to pick up Ellie from preschool twice in 1 week, after I'd reminded him both times, I stopped laughing. When I confronted him, he shrugged. "You didn't remind me this morning. I sent a text. You hearted it." I hearted a lot of things. He wasn't helping like he used to. Used to make lunches for the kids. Now I'd find empty bread bags and unopened lunchboxes at 3 p.m. He missed bedtime because he was stuck in traffic, but I'd see he'd just been sitting in the driveway scrolling his phone. He started asking questions that sounded like concern, but felt like guilt traps. "Don't you think they miss you? They say they barely see you these days. I just hope you're not trading their childhood for applause." That one hit me hard, because sometimes I did miss bedtime, and I did say not now more than I liked. And there were nights I cried in the bathroom feeling like a fraud, trying to teach people how language heals, while my own house felt like it was cracking. But I was doing this for them, for all of us. I wanted our family to have more than just scraped together savings and secondhand toys. I wanted to show Ellie and Liam what a woman could be, a voice that didn't vanish. Still, the doubts crept in. What kind of mother am I if I miss school art night? What kind of wife am I if he feels neglected? Melissa noticed something was off. "You're holding back again," she said during week 6. "I'm tired," I said. "Dan's been off how? Just not supportive." She gave me that coach stare. "He threatened by your spotlight?" I shook my head too quickly. "No," I said. "He's just adjusting," but I didn't believe it. And then, one night, I got the proof. It was late. I was coming back from a solo rehearsal at the local community center. Melissa had suggested doing dry runs in different spaces to get used to changing acoustics. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw Dan on the back porch with his friend Luke. They were drinking beers, feet propped on the railing. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was tired and fumbling with my keys when I heard my name. "Let her play TED Talk Queen for a while," Dan said. "Let her get it out of her system." Luke chuckled. "You think she's gonna pull it off?" Dan snorted. "Come on, man. You know how this goes. She builds it up, crashes, cries. Then we go back to normal. No one remembers these talks anyway, unless you're Brené Brown or something." Something in my chest twisted. Luke asked something else, but I didn't hear it. My ears were ringing. My hands trembled on the keys. I stood there, on the edge of the doorframe, listening to the man I married talk about my dream like it was a temporary illness. A phase I'd get over. I didn't say anything. Didn't storm out or cry or make a scene. I went inside, made tea, and smiled when he came in 20 minutes later. He kissed my cheek like nothing had happened, but that night, while he slept, I lay wide awake staring at the ceiling. And for the first time I realized he didn't want me to fail because he didn't believe in me. He wanted me to fail because it kept me small. He let the kids ruin my big night, then blamed me for it. The drive home was swallowed by silence. Ellie and Liam were out cold in the back seat, tangled in blankets and the kind of sweet, exhausted peace only children have after chaos. The kind of peace I longed for. Dan was at the wheel, his hands steady on the steering wheel, but I could feel the tension radiating from him like a low hum beneath the quiet. I stared out the window, watching the city lights blur into streaks. My mind replayed every moment from the stage. Ellie's urgent whines about the bathroom, Liam's loud interruptions, the way the audience's smiles had shifted to confused glances. I could almost hear the whispers of disappointment, the sound of my own faltering words. Then Dan spoke, breaking the silence. "I just wanted them to see you up there. It's important, you know?" His voice was calm, almost gentle, like he was explaining something simple. I turned to look at him, searching for any trace of regret or support, but all I found was a kind of distant detachment. "I know," I said quietly. "I wanted that too." He glanced at me, then away. "But you got mad at Ellie. You shouted. It wasn't your best." I blinked. Shouted? Yes, I'd raised my voice. I'd been desperate to salvage something, anything, from that disaster. But was it really madness or just raw frustration? "You were acting strange," he added, his tone almost accusing. For a moment I wanted to believe he was just tired, overwhelmed too. Maybe he was trying to make sense of a night gone wrong. Maybe. But deep down, a cold knot started to tighten in my stomach, because this wasn't the first time. Flashbacks hit me like a wave. The mornings when I'd catch him rolling his eyes after I spoke about my rehearsals. The way he forgot our dinner plans when I needed quiet time to prepare. The subtle scoffs when I practiced in the living room. The nights when I heard him whisper on the phone, his words clipped and dismissive. And how, every time I tried to talk about it, he'd twist the conversation until I was the one apologizing. I looked at him now, the man I'd promised forever to, and I saw the pattern clearer than ever. He didn't want me to win. Not really. Because my success made him smaller. The car turned onto our street. I watched the familiar houses, the porch lights, the shadows of trees swaying. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I was too intense, too focused, too caught up in this dream that distracted me from what mattered. Maybe I was a bad mother for losing my cool in front of the kids. Maybe I was a bad wife for being anything more than just the mom who made waffles and tucked children in bed. The questions burned. But then, I caught myself. It wasn't about the kids. It was never about the kids. He had used Ellie and Liam as weapons, shields, excuses. The noise, the interruptions. They were his tools to break me down, to keep me in a box, to remind me that my place was small, quiet, controlled. That night, as Dan pulled into the driveway and the kids stirred awake, I felt something inside me shift. A fragile thread of clarity began to unravel the fog of confusion and self-doubt. This was not just a bad night, this was a calculated move, and I was done letting him control the narrative. He let the kids ruin my big night, then blamed me for it. But that night wasn't the first time. It was just the loudest crack in a long, slow fracture. I sat on the edge of our bed, the house quiet except for the soft breathing of Ellie and Liam down the hall. The silence felt heavy, like a blanket soaked in years of small disappointments. I opened my laptop and scrolled through old blog posts, my digital diary, my secret world. I remembered when I first started writing online. I was so excited, so proud to share my thoughts, my stories, my dreams. But Dan? He called it my housewife diary, like it was nothing more than a silly hobby for someone with too much time on her hands. I shook my head at the memory. When one of my essays got published in a local magazine, I thought maybe he'd be happy. That maybe, finally, he'd see the effort I was putting in. Instead, he scoffed and said, "How much did they pay you, $5? Or $5? Like that was supposed to matter." Then came the day I started earning more than him. The day everything quietly shifted. Out of nowhere, Dan suggested we open a joint bank account. "Just so we're managing things together," he said, smiling like it was some great idea. It was the start of accusations. My spending was reckless. I was wasting money on stupid things. Suddenly, my hard-earned success was a target. I wasn't allowed a quiet evening with a book, a simple luxury I craved. Because there was always something. Family emergency, kids need me, or my favorite, you don't understand how hard it is. Looking back, I realized he never shouted, never hit, never outright forbade me from doing anything. He broke me slowly, quietly, by turning the small things into walls, one brick at a time. Like the time I woke up early to rehearse a speech, only to find Dan had left the kids' clothes all over the living room, shoes, backpacks, toys, so I had no space to practice. Or the countless dinners interrupted by urgent texts from him, each one a subtle reminder that my work was second priority. The nights he'd forget to watch the kids while I attended meetings, then complain I was always gone, a silent sabotage that felt like drowning without water. One night, after a particularly tense argument about my writing, my best friend Sarah sat me down. She looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Dan's scared, Kat. He's scared you're going to get too big for him." At the time, I laughed it off. How dramatic, I said. But now, I saw the truth. I wasn't just imagining things. I was caught in a web of gaslighting and passive abuse. That night, I searched online, desperate to understand. Articles on passive abuse, gaslighting, emotional control. The words echoed my life. They don't have to hit or scream. They break you with silence, with doubt, with constant, "What if it's you?" I read about how abusers isolate, confuse, and slowly steal confidence. Every paragraph made my chest tighten, but it also gave me clarity. I wasn't imagining things. I was surviving a slow, quiet war, and this was my turning point. To see the pattern was to begin to break it. I stood in the kitchen that evening, the soft hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the room. The kids were asleep, finally, after what felt like an eternity of chaos, and the house felt strangely empty. Dan was at the table, scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened, but I wasn't here for small talk or silence anymore. I took a deep breath and looked him straight in the eyes. "You ruined my speech on purpose," I said, calm but firm. For a moment, he laughed, a short, dismissive chuckle, like I was joking or being dramatic. "Come on, Kat," he said, shaking his head. "You think I'm against the kids? Against family? They were just noisy. It happens." I didn't flinch. I kept my voice steady. "No," I said. "You're jealous, plain and simple. You want me locked in a cage where you feel comfortable, where I don't grow, where I don't shine." His face darkened. The easy smirk vanished. "Jealous?" he spat. "Is that what this is about? You think I want you to fail?" I didn't answer. Instead, I folded my arms, feeling something shift inside me, the courage that had been building for months, maybe years. "I'm filing for divorce," I said quietly. The words hung in the air, heavy and real. Dan's eyes narrowed. His voice went low, tense. "You're going to destroy the family," he said. "Think about the kids." I met his gaze, unflinching. "The family you're talking about?" I asked. "You already destroyed it." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The kitchen felt colder somehow, the space between us growing wider. He had chosen to be my enemy. Moving day wasn't glamorous. A tiny apartment on the quieter side of Seattle, a place just big enough for me and the kids. But it was mine. No whispers behind my back, no smirks hiding behind false smiles, just fresh walls and a chance to breathe. The first morning in the new place, I sat by the window with a cup of coffee, watching Ellie and Liam get ready for school. They seemed lighter somehow, as if they'd felt the shift too. We started taking walks in the nearby park, the one with the old oak tree and the ducks that Liam loved to feed. No yelling, no competing with Dan's bitterness. Just us, real, imperfect, healing. I dusted off my laptop and opened a blank document. This time, I wasn't writing to prove anything to anyone. I was writing to share my truth. My new speech was titled, "Why I Left My Marriage to Save Myself," and my kids. Every word felt like a step out of the shadows. The invitation came unexpectedly. Another TEDx talk, this time in Portland. I almost laughed. Me, back on stage? But this time, the fear was gone. I rehearsed in my tiny living room, my voice steady, my heart lighter. I practiced in a nearby rehearsal hall, the walls echoing with possibility instead of pressure. No kids interrupting, no Dan's judgment weighing me down. Just me, my story, and a room full of people who might need to hear it. One afternoon, while I was typing away, Liam walked over and said quietly, "Mom, you look really pretty when you smile like that." I blinked, surprised. He never said things like that before. I smiled back, feeling a warmth I hadn't known in years. Maybe this was the start of something new. When I stepped onto the stage at the new TEDx event, a heavy silence settled over me. The spotlight was warm, the seats full, but for a moment, all I could hear was my own breath. A deep, grounding inhale, and then I spoke. When I lost my voice on this stage months ago, I thought I had failed. But really, that night saved me. The words felt like a release, a key unlocking something inside me I hadn't dared to face before. Looking out, I saw faces I knew, friends who had stood by me, cheered me on from day one. I thought about Ellie and Liam, watching from home with their nanny, their little eyes glued to a screen that felt miles away but closer than ever. I spoke with honesty about the fear, the sabotage, the pain of being silenced by the person you love most. About how abuse doesn't always come in shouts or bruises, but in quiet control, in stolen dreams. But most of all, I spoke about reclaiming my voice, about choosing myself when the world tried to tell me I wasn't enough. I saw tears in the audience, heard quiet sobs and murmurs of "me too." This was bigger than just me. Cut to Dan, alone in a dimly lit room scrolling through the video on his phone. His eyes, once full of smug superiority, were now empty, haunted. Watching her rise without him was a quiet kind of punishment, one he never anticipated. My voice filled the room once more as I delivered the final line. You don't have to shrink to make someone else feel tall. You were born to take up space. The applause was thunderous, the lights bright and warm. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Tears rolled down my cheeks, not of sadness but of joy, of relief, of victory. This stage was mine, this life was mine, and nothing could take that away.